So we're doing the last section of Topic 9, Linear and Quadratic Systems by Substitution Notes. Before we go through and talk about how we're going to solve by substitution, which we'll come back to, we're going to just go down here and we're going to do it a little backwards. We're going to graph this and we're going to find the answer. One of the reasons I'm pointing this out to you is because if on your EOC they allow you, so you'd look up at the top, and if they give you a graphing calculator, for sure use it. So we're going to actually go out to Desmos, and we're going to graph these and find the solutions to this system. We're going to write down that answer, then we're going to go through and make sure we're right. So we're going to kind of do it backwards, finding the answer first. So we're going to go out to Desmos right now, so open up Desmos, and we're going to enter these two equations. So you're just going to go y equals negative 2x minus 6. There we go. There's a nice, oh, well, what happened there? Okay, minus 6. There we go. That'll be a little better. And now let's do that other equation. Y equals 2x squared plus 10x plus 4. Okay, now, here's our two graphs. What I want you to do is that you're going to realize where those solutions are. You're going to have to come in a little, okay? And you're going to actually just identify the point. And a lot of times Desmos does it for you. So look, there's one of our solutions. So write that down on your paper right now. That is one of the solutions of negative 1, negative 4. And so what might kind of seem a little strange is when we were talking about quadratics, their solutions are where we cross the x-axis. But if I'm talking about a system, it's still true as what you learned before. Where do the graphs intersect? Where do the graphs intersect? So one of our solutions is negative 1, negative 4. Our other solution is negative 5, 4. Those are our two solutions. But I want you to see this is one way of finding it. Go to Desmos and graph the equations. Okay, let's go back to our paper. So we know the two solutions for this system, okay? And it's where they intersected. So wherever the two graphs intersect, that's the solution. That is still true. And yes, that is a question on your EOC practice test. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually solve by substitution, which is great because this is a refresher on how to solve by substitution. So to solve by substitution, remember we have to get one variable and plug it into the other. So write an equation containing only variables. Okay, so as we've seen before, these are not my notes. I know they're wonderful, I just don't know what the answers are to the blank. I know how to do this problem, I just don't know how to fill in the blank. So let's try to do it the best we can, and I'm going to show you how I would do it at the same time. So I think what this is saying is write an equation, and I could be totally wrong, containing only a y variable. So what I think it's saying is get y on one side by itself. Because that's how we're going to do it. And we already have that. Yay, we don't have to do step 1. Solve to set this equation equal to each other. So here's what I would do. See how they're both equal to y? So doesn't that mean that I can just take this whole thing and plug it back into y? So I'm going to substitute one equation into the other, and if they're both set equal to y, then it's no problem. So what I'm going to do is y is equal to this. So I'm going to take that and plug it into the other equation. And it doesn't matter which way you write it. Actually, I'm going to take it and plug it in here. So I'm going to take this part and plug it in right here. So I'm going to rewrite x squared plus 7x minus 24 is equal to 10x plus 16. Okay? And now we're going to solve that. Maybe that, I don't know. I still don't know what the blanks are, but it doesn't matter. What I'm doing is right. So now I'm going to get everything on the same side. I'm either going to solve by factoring, if that's possible. I'm factoring, or by quadratic formula. Okay? Maybe by square roots. This one won't work by square roots because we have a middle term. Okay, so we could maybe complete the square. Let's see. Okay, so let's get it all to one side and go from there. So first we're going to subtract 10x from both sides. and we're also going to move the 6 if that's okay. So we have x squared minus 3x minus 30 is equal to 0. Is that factorable? 3 and 10, 5 and 6. I don't believe that's factorable. I'm not sure, though. Okay, so what we're going to do, though, is we're going to solve for x. So we're going to use one of these to solve for x, and then we're going to plug it back in and solve for y. And someday maybe we'll figure out what these answers are on these blanks. So I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to use quadratic formula. I believe that's going to be the best one. Let me look again. So when I looked again, I went and tried to do a quick factoring on this. It's not factorable. And what I did is I just made an x. I just went and said, hey, it's going to be negative 30 at the top, and it's going to be negative 3 at the bottom. If I look at the factors of 30, 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 4, 6, 5 and 6. I'm going to have to subtract, and none of those when subtracted will give me 3. So I know that doesn't factor. I know I can't use the square root because I have a middle term there. And if I'm going to use completing the square, I don't have an even number there, so I wouldn't use that either. Okay, so I'm going to go with quadratic formula. So x, here we go, let's sing. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, here we go, let's plug it in. What is a? I'm going to go to a different color so you can kind of see it. A is 1, b is negative 3, and c is negative 30. So here we go. Everybody plug that in and solve. Go. Okay, so if you haven't already figured it out, I made a mistake. Did you see my mistake? I put a 6 instead of a 16. Here's how I figured it out. It's not coming out to be a nice little perfect square. I'm not going to get a whole number. So I was like, something's got to be wrong. So this should be a 16 right here, so I should subtract 16. So therefore, it might be factorable. Okay, what is that? 24 and 16. 24 and 16 is going to give me a negative 40. Pause, let's see, I'm going to go back. Sorry about that mistake. Well, dang it, that one was factorable. Do you see that? Look what I did, negative 40, and I subtracted 5 and 8, and I'm going to get a 3. So I could have factored this puppy instead of using quadratic formula. Heck, I'm already into it. I'm just going to finish here if y'all don't mind and keep going. The only thing that changed, of course, was C. C is now a negative 40. I am so sorry for the mistake. Okay, so that's going to give us 9 minus a negative 160. So that's going to give us 3 plus or minus the square root of 169 all over 2, which is going to give us 3 plus or minus 13 all over 2. Okay, so had I factored it, it would have been way faster had I not made that mistake by dropping the 1. But this is a good mistake to learn from. If you go to do one of these and it's not coming out to be a whole number, you probably did something wrong, so check for that. Okay, so here we go. That means find the corresponding, so I'm going to solve by factoring, and I'm going to solve for x. So x is equal to negative 3 plus 13, that's 16 divided by 2, that's 8. And x is equal to negative 3, negative 10, so negative 5. And had I factored it, I would have seen that very quickly. Okay, see that right there? Just going to factor it too, because I think it's good practice. So x squared minus 3x minus 40 is equal to 0. So we would have come over here, top of our x is negative 40, bottom is negative 3, so I would have had 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 3 doesn't go in, 4 and 10, 5 and 8. Bam, there it is. So 5 and 8. Since my top number is negative, my signs have to be different, and this is negative, so my larger factors had to be negative. So I would have had x squared plus 5x minus 8x minus 40. So I would have factored it and got x, and then it's x plus 5, negative 8, and it's x plus 5. And so I get x plus 5, and x minus 8 is equal to 0. So I would have had x plus 5 equals 0, so x is equal to negative 5. X minus 8 is 0, so x is equal to 8. So that's the other way I could have done it. And I know you're going, oh my gosh, just move on, woman. But you have your 2x values. Okay, so once you have your 2x values, you're going to find the corresponding y value, okay? And you can use either equation. Oh, wow, I think I got those two fill in the blanks right. Woohoo, yay me. Okay, so that's the y. We're going to find the y value. Now, hello, look at this. Which equation do you think you're going to want to plug it into? Of course, the second one. But you can use either one, so feel free. Plug it into that top one. I'm using the bottom one. Y is equal to 10x plus 16. So I'm going to go with x being equal to 8. So when I plugged in, now this one we did actually solve. We're going to go out and check our answer on Desmos. I forgot to come down and just do this one, so this is fine. So I'm getting the answers are 8 and 96 and negative 5 and negative 34. Okay, so I plug in 8, 80 plus 16, plug in negative 5, I get negative 50, plus 16, I get negative 34. Hey, let's go see if we're right. This will be fun. So we're out in Desmos now, and we're entering our equation. So y is equal to x squared plus 7x minus 24. There's our first graph, and I forgot to put an equal sign. This is not my best day, is it? Sorry about that. Thanks for your patience. So there's our quadratic, and we have it solved. Oh, and if we ever wanted to find the solution of just a quadratic, notice I could just click on that too. So what is that? Negative 9.521. Luckily, we didn't have to find our x-intercepts or our solutions to the quadratic, because that would have been fun, huh? And then we're going to plug in our equation of y equals 10x plus 16. We know that one, 16. Okay, so here we go. Do you see the solutions? Whoops. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to just play with and what you do is you just move your screen in and out. Oh, you guys know that. Okay, so let's see where they intersect. And let's see if we're even close to right on answers. So here's one intersection. That's 896. Yeah, we got that one. Okay, now let's move it up and see what this solution is. Hopefully that is negative 5, negative 34. Are we awesome or what? We got those two solutions right. Yay us. Okay, let's go back to the paper. But do you see what we're doing here? We can either start off by seeing where they graph, and the thing I want you to see is that the solution of a linear and a quadratic is just where they intersect. And if you get the chance to graph it, yeah. Okay, let's go back to our paper. Okay, so yay us. Now, I should have started by graphing that one, but oh well, did it backwards. So now we're going to do this one. We believe these are the solutions. Let's see if we're right. So, if you remember, what we're going to do is we're going to take one equation and plug it into the other one. And to tell you the truth, what I'm going to do is put this on the left-hand side, this on the right, because it really doesn't matter. We're just going to set them equal is all we're doing. So I'm going to write 2x squared plus 10x plus 4 is equal to negative 2x minus 6. Why do I do that? Because I like the square term on the left-hand side. Okay, so I'm a little bit of a creature of habit. Anyway, now I'm going to move everything to the left-hand side. Add the 2x. Add the 6. And we get 2x squared plus 12x plus 10 is equal to 0. So notice with this one, we could factor out a 2 to begin with if we wanted to. So if we were going to solve by factoring, we could actually factor divide them all by 2. And I can do that because what would really happen, because whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other, I can actually go through and divide everything by 2. And when I take 0 divided by 2, it doesn't change it. So x squared plus 6x plus 5 is equal to 0. I think that one's factorable. Ooh, I'm going to factor, but if you don't like factoring, solve by quadratic formula. I'm pretty sure this is factorable. Because look at the top of my x is 5, the bottom is 6. What are the factors of? And my top number is positive, my bottom one's positive, so everything's going to be positive. One factor is 1, one factor is 5. So look at this, x squared plus, and doesn't that add to 6? Yeah. So this one's much quicker to just factor. So x squared plus 1x plus 5x plus 5 is equal to 0. Go, finish it. So you should have gotten that you take an x out of the first one, take a 5 out of the second one, so x plus 1 and x plus 5, set those both equal to 0. So I get x equals negative 1, x equals negative 5. wow, they didn't give us any too much room to do these problems because we have x, now we have to go find y. Oh, it's not going to be that big a deal. Which equation do you want to pick? Because you can pick either. Sorry, that's my sarcasm. I would pick the top equation. So we have y is equal, so I'm plugging them both into this equation right here, because then I don't have to go through and square it and everything. So negative 2 times negative 1 minus 6. So that gives me 2 minus 6, so that's a negative 4. So when x is negative 1, y is negative 4. Bam! Look at us! Aren't we good? We got that one. Okay, let's do the other one. X equals negative 5. Y is equal to negative 2 times negative 5 minus 6. 10 minus 6, we get 4. Yes! Look at, we did it! Woohoo! Yay us! So here's my x value of negative 5. My y value is 4. See how that works? Yay! Okay, here we go. We're going to do this other one. Look, this is what they're talking about on that first one. We have to set it equal to the y variable, containing only the, well, I'm guessing containing only x variable. I still don't know what that sentence is supposed to be. But we know we have to get y by itself so we can set them equal. It's the easiest way to do it. So here we go. Top equation's ready. Let's get that bottom equation ready. So we have y is equal to x plus 2. And we're going to just plug that into that other one. Ooh, and yuck. We have a fraction. They're not that bad. We'll take care of that in just a second. So we have negative 1/3 x squared minus 2x minus 4 is equal to x plus 2. Let's bring everything over, and then let's clear that fraction. Okay, so we're going to subtract x, subtract 2, subtract 2. So we get negative 1/3 x squared minus 3x minus 6 is equal to 0. And if we ever have a fraction, what do we want to do? That's right, clear that thing out of there. So, and we're going to actually multiply through by a negative, so then our a is positive. Then we might be able to factor. So we're going to multiply every single term by a negative 3, by a negative 3, by a negative 3. And remember, I have to do it on this side. I know it. You're going, well, it doesn't matter. You still have to do it. So my 3 cancels, and this becomes a positive x squared. Nothing's going to cancel, but I have a negative times a negative, so that's plus 9x. Negative times a negative, 18, is equal to 0. We can't use the square root because we have a middle term, but we might be able to factor. I know we'd be able to solve it by quadratic formula. I want you to decide which way you're going to do it, if you want to factor it or if you want to do quadratic formula. Go. So I did it both ways because then you can see either way you're going to get that. So here I factored it, and I found out that it was 3 and 6, so then it's negative 3, negative 6. And then over here I solved it, and of course I got negative 3 and negative 6. Okay? So we did not find the answer to this first, so again we're kind of doing it backwards. But we're going to be able to check our answers by going out and graph it on Desmos. So x is equal to negative 3. We're going to plug that into this equation, y plus 2. I'm going to take this one. That one's even simpler. Okay? Because then I even have to do less. So y is equal to negative 3 plus 2. That gives me negative 1. So I have one of my answers. Not a lot of room to work, is there? One of my answers is negative 3, negative 1. And my other one is negative 6 plus 2, so that's a negative 4. So I have the answer of negative 6, negative 4. Good. Let's go see if we're right. Come on. Let's go to Desmos. So y equals, plug those two equations in. Negative 1 divided by 3, move my cursor, x squared minus 2x. Yeah, this one does open down, doesn't it? Minus 4. Okay. Oh, hey, this one bounces off. Look at that. So the only thing, oh, that doesn't even, we don't even, that's interesting. Okay, that one doesn't even look like it touches the x-axis. So now we're going to go with the other equation. Y equals, what did this do? Y equals x plus 2. Don't forget that equal sign there. Okay, now this one we're going to want to actually zoom in and find out where they intersect. There's one of our points, negative 3, negative 1, yay! And the other point is negative 6, negative 4. We are awesome. Yes. Okay, let's go back to our paper. We got the correct answers. There's our two solutions. We are awesome. Okay, so we're going to look at these. You're going to solve these. This is what you're doing for homework. That's on 41B and 41C, but you only have to do one page, so don't worry about that. Check with Schoology and see what your teacher is assigning you, and you are good to go. If you have any questions, you know where to find us. Thank you very much.